there was the question. Steve was a visionary. Can Tim continue the Apple tradition of creating? Can he reach into the future? Did that concern you? Did you think about that? Were you committed to prove that Apple had a future beyond the groundwork that Steve Jobs had laid?
One more thing.
The moment no one wanted finally arrived. The visionary who was Apple had to hand the keys to someone the public barely knew. Could the soft-spoken operator keep the magic alive? Or would Apple drift without the lightning rod who bent reality for a living? The answer isn't subtle. Apple didn't just survive, it became the most valuable company on Earth, piercing the $3 trillion ceiling and staying there in the collective imagination. That's not luck. That's Tim Cook building a machine so efficient it could turn vision into velocity, over and over again. Long before the keynote lights and the breathless supercuts, Tim Cook was sharpening a different blade. IBM gave him a battlefield of logistics. Intelligent Electronics taught him how to rescue a mess. Compaq taught him scale.
The easy access button on the Compaq Presario, we're changing the way you get on the internet. The Compaq Presario 4800 series with Intel Pentium 2 processor.
By his late 30s, he was the person companies called when the deadlines were already on fire. It wasn't glamorous, it was relentless, and it made him lethal where it counts, inside the parts of a business most people never see. But the fire he'd inherit next was different. Apple in the 90s was a maze with no exits. Too many Macs with names no one could decode. Prices up, patience down. Competitors closing in with cheaper boxes that did enough. Then a twist. Apple buys next. And Steve Jobs storms back in, flips the org chart, kills most of the lineup, and makes focus a weapon.
I couldn't even figure out the damn product line after a few weeks. I kept saying, well, what is this model? How does this fit? And I started talking to customers, and they couldn't figure it out either. And so you're going to see the product line get much simpler, and you're going to see the product line get much better.
The iMac lands like a flare in the night. Simple, colorful, clear. Apple is breathing again, but breathing isn't enough. You need muscle to climb, and that's when Jobs meets the operator who hates waste more than he loves sleep. One conversation, and Cook jumps.
Well, I'm just thinking I'm going to meet him, and all of a sudden he's talking about his strategy and his vision, and what he was doing was going 100% into consumer, when everybody else in the industry had decided you couldn't make any money in consumer, so they were headed to servers and storage in the enterprise. And I'd always thought that following the herd was not a good thing. It was a terrible thing to do, right? He was doing something totally different, and he told me a little about the design, enough to get me really interested. And he was describing what later would be called the iMac. And the way that he talked and the way the chemistry was in the room, it was just he and I could tell I can work with him. And I looked at the problems Apple had, and I thought, I can make a contribution here. And working with him, and this is a privilege of a lifetime. And so all of a sudden I thought, I'm doing it. I'm going for it. And you have this voice in your ear that says, go west, young man, go west.
He walks away from comfort at Compaq to join a company weeks from disaster, because Jobs' eyes are fixed on a consumer future everyone else had written off. Cook sees it, a chance to turn chaos into cadence. He tears down Apple's tangled supply chain and rebuilds it around speed, leverage, and timing. Less inventory, tighter commitments, better component economics. Suddenly the distance between designed and delivered shrinks. The iMac isn't just a hit, it's proof Apple can make bold ideas at scale again. The rebuild is underway, but the hardest chapter hasn't started yet. Inside the walls, Cook becomes the metronome. Where Jobs runs on taste and terror, Cook runs on tables and timing. He's the person who notices the hitch in the spreadsheet before it becomes a recall on the evening news. Partners sign longer deals. Inventory stops aging out. Launch windows get predictably dramatic. The culture learns a new reflex. Ship when we say we'll ship. It's not flashy. It's survival turned into an advantage. And it gives Apple a backbone sturdy enough to carry risk without breaking, which is exactly when fate takes its swing. The handoff. Jobs' health battles the calendar, and in 2011, the title changes.
He called me one weekend in August of 11, and he said, "I'd like to talk. I've been thinking a lot. Apple's never had a professional transition at CEO. I'm determined that we will have one now. I want you to be the CEO."
And just 6 weeks later,
we are interrupting programming this evening because an American Edison has died. Steve Jobs, the chairman of the board of Apple Computer Company, passed away a short time ago.
Apple is confirming that Steve Jobs has passed away after a battle with pancreatic cancer.
He was an artist who worked in metal and glass, plastic and pixels, and the ideas that live inside his machines completely change our definition of form and function. After surviving pancreatic cancer and a 2009 liver transplant, the 56-year-old founding father of Apple Computer and Pixar Studios died tonight. He is mourned by his wife, 4 children, and millions around the world who could not wait to see what he would come up with next.
The world expects a charisma clone. It gets a quiet executioner of inefficiency. Early on, the crowd keeps asking for Steve. It's awkward on stage. It's flawless backstage. And for a while, that's enough. Iterative iPhones, an iPad mini, the familiar drumbeat. But outside, the narrative is yawning. Is Apple out of surprises? Then September 2014 happened. Back to the Flint Center, where Apple has rewritten its story before. Cook strides out and skips the bragging slides.
Some amazing products to share with you. And we think, at the end of the day, that you will agree that this, too, is a very key day for Apple. We have so much to cover today. I'm dispensing with those other than to tell you everything's great.
Straight to the point. Bigger iPhones, 6 and 6 Plus.
I don't think you guys realize just how big this event was. This was the event where Tim Cook announced the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus. This was the event that showed us that Apple wasn't done yet. And though Steve got them this far, this iPhone would have never existed under his reign.
Then a payment platform that turns your phone into your wallet.
That's it! Maybe, would you like to see it one more time, just in case?
Then one more thing that isn't a phone at all. A watch that will slowly wire itself into your day. Three decisions, one message. Cook will break with dogma if the market moves. Result, the best-selling iPhone generation ever, and a wearables business that becomes the on-ramp for health, notifications, and loyalty. Apple isn't done. It's shifting into a different gear, and that gear changes how Apple makes money. Momentum turns into a system. Apple Watch leads smartwatches for years, nudging an entire category forward. AirPods become the default for TWS, their charging case a handshake everyone recognizes.
The future of wireless audio.
Most importantly, a new pillar hardens. Services, subscriptions, cloud, payments, media. It's recurring, it's high margin, and it hit a record $85 billion.
Apple becoming the first publicly traded company in the world to hit $1 trillion in net worth.
A 13-digit value mark. Can they keep this up?
The future of wireless audio.
The future of the smartphone
to even more people.
Can they keep this up?
And now it's time for a huge leap forward for the Mac.
And a future beyond the groundwork that Steve Jobs had laid.
Put it this way, Apple is now as valuable as the 4 biggest U.S. banks combined.
$1 trillion company to reach the $2 trillion.
$3 trillion.
$3 trillion. Haven't seen it before.
No, it's even looking on your screen, it's sort of a shocking thing to see. It's $3 trillion next to one company.
We do have one more thing. This is a day that's been years in the making. I'm excited to announce an entirely new AR platform with a revolutionary new product. Introducing Apple Vision Pro.
Apple confirmed Jeff Williams will retire. Operations leadership passes to Sabi Khan, a 30-year insider. Meanwhile, outside chatter increasingly points to hardware chief John Ternus as a plausible next CEO when the day comes. None of that sets a date. It sets the context. Cook has already professionalized the handoff, so Apple doesn't have to bet the company on one person's aura again. The next leader inherits a disciplined machine with room to be bold. He also changed Apple's risk profile. The company didn't stop taking swings. It stopped taking fragile swings. So what did Tim actually change? Bigger iPhones broke an old rule and topped the charts. Services made the quarterly base less cyclical. Wearables turned out to be sticky. Silicon strategy pulled the Mac out of a multi-year trough and put battery life on cheat mode. Cook quietly built a business that could afford to be patient with a platform-level bet like Apple Intelligence, because the ground game pays for time. That's why Apple Intelligence can stumble, learn, and still breathe. So where does this story land? With a machine, a soul, and a next chapter. Jobs embedded a product philosophy so deep it still vibrates through Apple's choices. Cook embedded a system so durable it can carry that philosophy without him in the building. The next CEO won't be asked to be Steve or Tim. They'll be asked to understand what each made possible, and then take a risk that uses both, starting with the long game of Apple Intelligence across the stack. What should we watch now? 3 signals. First, how quickly Apple Intelligence unlocks everyday wins. Siri with richer personal context, writing tools that save minutes you actually feel, and credible on-screen understanding. Second, whether services keep setting records, because that's the oxygen. Third, the rise of the next public-facing storyteller inside Apple, someone we trust at the mic when Cook finally chooses a seat off stage. In the end, Apple's story isn't just about products, it's about people who choose hard problems and keep showing up. Jobs gave Apple a heartbeat. Cook gave it stamina, turning vision into a rhythm that ships on time and at impossible scale. Apple Intelligence is simply the next verse in that song. Less noise, more usefulness, built to get better quietly, day after day.
Emojis, Genmoji'd. Imagination, unleashed. Mail, simplified. Tone, just right. Words, worked out. Visual intelligence, unlocked. And that's why life is just easier with Apple Intelligence.
If I have learned anything from this journey, it's that the right system can make bold ideas feel inevitable. Together, they made a company that can do something rare. Keep inventing while it's already on top. The face on stage will change. The cadence doesn't have to. If you found this breakdown helpful, share it with a friend who loves tech stories told without the hype. And tell me in the comments, which signal are you watching most closely? The Apple Intelligence rollout, the services engine, or the next voice at the mic? Until then, stay curious, stay bold. This is Oi Life, and I'll see you again soon.